Hello, everyone, and welcome. I'm Russ LeBlanc, your personal NAC consultant and code expert. Thanks for watching. In this video, I'm going to be discussing our options for AFCI protection when we replace a receptacle. And we're going to be looking at both the 2023 and proposed changes for the 2026. So let's take a look. First, we'll start off with the 2023 wording. All right, here's what it said in 406.4D4 for AFCI protection for replacement receptacles. If a receptacle located in any area specified in 210.12A, B, or C is replaced, a replacement receptacle at this outlet shall be one of the following: a listed outlet branch circuit type AFCI receptacle, a receptacle protected by a listed outlet branch circuit type AFCI receptacle, or a receptacle protected by a listed combination type AFCI breaker. Now, right off the bat, there's some problems with the wording here. The first question I have is this: what voltage and amperage are we talking about? It doesn't mention anything here. Is it supposed to only be for 15 amp and 20 amp circuits and receptacles? What about a 30 amp or a 50 amp? Or what about 250 volts? Doesn't tell us. So that could be confusing. And then there's another problem, and it's this one, 210.12a. I don't think that's the right reference. There are no areas specified in 210.12a. Let's take a look at the wording there. 210.12a covers means of protection or types of AFCI protection. There's no areas specified there. It mentions 6 different types of AFCI protection options. So again, there are no quote-unquote areas specified in 210.12a. So I'm pretty sure that was an incorrect reference in 406.4D4. Now, as far as 210.12b, these are the areas in dwelling units. And there are 14 areas specified in dwelling units, including all the areas you see up on the screen there. And of course, the catch-all is similar areas, right? Quote-unquote similar areas. So that's obviously going to have some different interpretations potentially. And then for dormitory units, 210.12c, there were 6 areas specified for dormitory units, including those areas on the screen. And again, that similar rooms catch-all phrase there. So if you replace the receptacle in these areas, in the dwelling or in the dormitory, you might trigger a requirement for AFCI protection. But what was not mentioned in 2023 was this section. Not when replacing a receptacle anyways. There was no reference to 210.12d, other occupancies, in 406.4D4. Not in 2023. And what areas are covered by this section? Let's take a look. Well, it includes guest rooms and guest suites of hotels and motels, areas used as exclusively as patient sleeping rooms in nursing homes and limited care facilities, and then areas designed for use exclusively as sleeping quarters in fire stations, police stations, ambulance stations, rescue stations, ranger stations, and similar locations. Now, because this section was not referenced in 406.4D4 in 2023, if you replaced a receptacle in any of those areas, it would not trigger a requirement to provide AFCI protection if it wasn't already AFCI protected. I don't know if that was intentional, but that's the wording that was in 2023. So let's take a look at what's proposed for 2026 to try to hopefully close some of these loopholes, if you will. All right, here's the proposed wording for 2026. It's going to be a new section. It's 406.12 instead of 406.4. 406.12d4 AFCI protection. If a receptacle is supplied by a 120 volt single phase 15 amp or 20 amp branch circuit. Nice. They tell us which voltage and which amperage now, which 2023 and previous did not. So that's a good start. And located in any area specified in 210.12, not 210.12a, that was a mistake, but rather 210.12b, c, or d, as we already covered, right? So if you replace one of those receptacles in any of those areas, you have to provide some type of protection, and you have a few options. You can put in an AFCI type of receptacle. You could do that. Take out a regular receptacle, put in an AFCI type of receptacle. Or your second option is you can protect the receptacle that you're replacing through an AFCI receptacle. Either way, you're still using an AFCI type of receptacle as their protection. And then the last option is you install a combination type AFCI circuit breaker. That's it. It's really only two options: an AFCI receptacle, protecting another AFCI receptacle or protecting that receptacle that you've replaced, or an AFCI breaker, a combination type AFCI breaker. So, quick review. For 2026, 406.12d4 is going to apply to the 14 areas specified in dwelling units, the 6 areas specified in dormitories, and all the areas specified in 210.12d, which were previously not covered when you were replacing a receptacle in those areas. So now, if you replace a receptacle in any of those areas specified in 210.12d, it's going to trigger AFCI protection. And it only applies to receptacles on 120 volt, 15 amp, or 20 amp single phase branch circuit. So I think that is much clearer as to which receptacles are going to need AFCI protection. And it includes a whole bunch of other areas that were not previously included in this rule. Now, what's our permitted protection techniques? Well, you can use an AFCI receptacle. You can take out a receptacle and put in an AFCI receptacle, or you can protect receptacles, replacement receptacles, through this AFCI receptacle. That's one option. This is an outlet type of AFCI receptacle. Another option is to use an AFCI breaker, but not any type of AFCI breaker, a combination type AFCI breaker. And if you look at the bottom, I'm going to put a little yellow highlight around it. See that down there? It's stamped right on the breaker, listed circuit breaker, also combination type AFCI. So you can use that as the AFCI protection for replacement receptacles. I'm going to show you another circuit breaker. This is also a combination AFCI breaker. It also happens to provide GFCI protection. So it's a dual function AFCI, GFCI, and it's a combination type of AFCI. I'm going to show you another circuit breaker. Now, this is an AFCI breaker, but you cannot use this type to provide AFCI protection for replacement receptacles, and that's because this is not a combination type of AFCI, but if you look where I have the yellow highlight there, this is only a branch circuit / feeder AFCI. It's not a combination AFCI. So right now, the way it's worded presently and apparently in 2026, you're still not going to be able to use this particular type of AFCI breaker to provide AFCI protection when you're replacing a receptacle. Now, as a side note, because you might be wondering, well, where can I use this type of AFCI breaker? Well, you can use that type of breaker, a branch circuit / feeder AFCI, if you also install an outlet type AFCI at the first outlet. Like you see on the screen here, we have the AFCI breaker, which is not a combination breaker, but just branch circuit / feeder AFCI. And then we have the outlet type AFCI receptacle, which we would install at the first outlet. And in conjunction with each other, they provide protection essentially equivalent to a combination type of AFCI. So this protection technique is permitted for new circuits, and that's per 210.12a2, or if you modify, replace, or extend an existing branch circuit in accordance with 210.12e, you just can't use it, which is a little weird. You can't use this protection method if you're replacing receptacles. A little strange. Maybe they'll close that loophole in a future edition of the code. Thank you for watching. I got more videos coming, so keep watching, and I look forward to seeing you in the next one.